Okay, so we're on page 292. Kuf Samech Gimmel. Siman Kuf Samech Gimmel, chapter 163.
Oh, we've been here before.
What?
I have some notes on this page.
We did this one? Oh yeah, you're right. Because we talked about, very good, bro. Because we talked about how far you have to travel or eating with gloves. That's what we spoke about these. Din, the law of Misha en lo mayim, if somebody who does not have water. Mitzvim lefanav, which are available in front of him. Berachok yoter me'arba'a milin, and it's further away than 4 mil. Mil is a measurement of distance. Like there's feet, there's inches, there's miles, there's kilometers, there's mil in halakha. Milin is plural of mil. Ulacharav mil, or behind him a mil. Wow. I remember here, I have a few different Shulchan Aruch, so different versions of what it says here. Lat yadav b'mapa. Some books say yitol yadav, you wash your hands with a napkin. Lat yadav mapa, if I remember, if my memory serves me correct, I found Gilsaot. Lat yadav means you wrap your hands in a napkin, in a, towel. Vochel pat, and you eat bread or davar shtiblo b'mashker, or anything else that needs to be washed for, like vegetables dipped inside of liquids. So if you don't have water, what is the distance in which you have to go look for water? 4 mil ahead of you, and 1 mil behind you.
To go look for water. That's long distance.
4 mil is a little bit less than 4 kilometers.
Oh.
What are kilometers in miles, Baruch?
Is it like
We know?
There's 2 kilometers in a mile, no?
something like that?
Let me just check.
So that means 1 mile.
Almost 2.
2 kilometers in a mile, right?
I think so.
One kilometer is 0.62 of a mile. Let's say 4 kilometers. Let's make it 2.5 miles. A little bit. So 2.5 miles in front of you, and a little more than half a mile behind you. Meaning, what is halakha really saying? How long do you have to travel to find water? You have to go back up to half a mile. 0.6, okay? And that's going out of your way, because going backwards means you're losing time. How much ahead of you, though? Up to 2.5 miles. Why so much?
Because you're heading that way anyways.
Very good. You're heading that way anyways, so you might as well wait to eat your sandwich. In which case, you shouldn't wait until you're starving to start thinking about where you're going to find water to wash your hands. You should make sure. But if you know, let's say you know. How do you know? Because you travel this road a lot. Let's say you know that in the next 2.5 miles, there's no well. There's no grocery store. I'll tell you a good example of that. Imagine you're Camp Pendleton. And you know, okay, today Camp Pendleton, on one side you have rest stops, right? You have on the right side rest stops or just on the left side?
Both.
Both ways?
Yeah.
Okay, let's pretend Camp Pendleton had no rest stops. How long is Camp Pendleton, more or less?
I know the sign says like next service is 18 miles.
Oh, let's say 20 miles. You are now just entered at the Camp Pendleton, and you're like, oh, I want to eat. Now, obviously we're going to have to talk about walking versus driving, right? Is meal a measurement of distance, or is it a measurement of how long would it take you to walk a mile? How long would it take you to walk a mile?
About 20 minutes.
About 20 minutes a mile?
Yeah.
So that means that if you're, let's say that I'm going to use that number, you have to walk 50 minutes before you can eat without washing. Or is it, hey, I did 2.5 miles in my car, that took me 2.5 minutes. We have to talk about that. But right now we're talking about a guy who's walking. And he knows this road, he knows his journey, he knows that a half a mile behind him and 2.5 miles in front of him, there's no way in the world he's going to find water. So now he's officially in the halakha category of a man who does not have water. So what does he do, says Maran? What does he do with his hands?
Wraps them in a napkin.
He wraps them in a napkin, so he's not touching the bread. And he eats the bread. Says the Rama, Haga, note, O ochel, or you eat al yidei kaf, using a fork or a spoon. You can't wash for your pizza, cut it up with a fork and a knife, and eat it on a fork. Now, is Rama arguing with Maran, or is he giving another option to Maran? Maran says you have to wrap your hands. What does the Rama say?
You can use a spoon or...
Use a spoon, or a fork, or something, meaning a utensil. Is he adding another case, or is he arguing with Maran?
I think he's
No,
just
he's
getting an
just
alternate.
Would Maran agree you can eat with a spoon?
Wow, that's a good question.
I don't think he would.
You don't think he would, in which case Rama is arguing with Maran. I mean, he's adding a case, he agrees with Maran, but he's adding a detail that Maran might not agree with.
How about if the fork is not clean or something?
No, we're not worried about a fork.
No.
We're worried about his hands touching the bread, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're going to have to discuss what is Maran trying to accomplish by using a glove, a napkin? Let's call it a
Is
glove.
he
but a
trying to
glove,
wipe this hand, or is it just to keep it separated from the food?
correct? And what is Rama trying to do with this fork or this spoon? So we're going to see that it ends up being an argument. We're going to get into that detail. About what exactly we do with that information. Let's first read the notes on page 292. Okay. Aleph, in the middle of the page, 292. Even people whose hands are covered with a napkin or b'kfafot or with gloves, but the gloves are probably the most practical case of covering your hands with a napkin, no?
But usually when you're in the road, you don't, unless if you carry gloves with you.
Right, or you're a working person.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of people who carry gloves. For example, it's very relevant for a soldier, a police officer. They carry gloves with them.
Yes.
Let's say they can't wash because they're in the middle of the desert. So even if you have a napkin or gloves, you're not allowed to eat bread until you wash your hands. It doesn't make a difference if you have a glove, but you cannot eat until you wash your hands. On page 292. Let's look at the origin of this halakha. No, before then, let's go to page 293 of chapter 3. If a person does not have water in front of him, to wash his hands before the meal, you have to go look for water. And anybody who has water in front of him, 4 milin, which are 8,000 amma, which are a little bit less than 4 kilometers, which we said is more or less 2.5 miles. Or if he doesn't have water behind him, less than a meal, which is 2,000 amma, which is a little bit less than 1 kilometer, which is around 0.6 miles. He's not permitted to eat bread without washing his hands. So if you have water 2.5 miles in front of you, half a mile behind you, you cannot eat bread even if you have gloves. Even if you wrap your hands in a towel or you use gloves. But if water is not found in front of you, water is only found past 4 meal. Or it's 1 meal behind you, not half a meal behind you. You can wrap your hands inside of a towel or a napkin. Or yilbash kifafot, or you wear gloves, and you can eat. Yes?
Yeah.
Let's look at the footnote on page 292. See the right column? where it says Siman Kuf Samech Gimmel Aleph, 292, the right one. Be Chulin, in Masechet Chulin, Amru, they said, Hitiru mapa leochlei tiruma. They allowed the eaters of tiruma. What is tiruma?
Truma.
What is truma?
Purity.
No, that's tuma.
Oh.
What is teruma?
Is that
Teruma?
like the sacrifice?
It's
or
the offering.
Like a-
offering?
The offering
Oh.
of grain, the bread.
Mhm.
They allowed those who offer teruma to use a napkin. V'lo hitiru mapa leochlei tarot. But those who are just eating regular pure food, not Bet HaMikdash food,
Mm.
they don't allow them to use napkins.
Mm.
Which would mean to tell you that we learn this idea of wrapping our hands from where? From the Bet HaMikdash. Just like in the Bet HaMikdash, if you had to eat the teruma and you did not have water, you're allowed to wrap your hands. So too by regular bread, if you don't have water, you can wrap your hands. But what did the Gemara say? Who's allowed to wrap their hands? Only,
Kohanim.
yeah, only people who are eating teruma. That's right.
Yeah.
But regular people eating food,
No.
or kohanim eating regular food,
No.
you can't wrap your hands.
Mm.
Uh-huh.
So what do you do?
You don't eat.
Shabbat.
Simple.
וכתב הראש, and the Rosh writes, דכל שכן לחולין, how much more so, not just pure food, but chulin food. Chulin food is what you and I eat. It's not even like holy food. It's just regular grocery store food.
Mm.
וכן פסקו ראשונים רבים, and there are many ראשונים who hold this way. A lot. Look at the left side. Pretty much the whole column is the name of rabbis who say this, that by regular bread you can't wrap your hands. Ulam, but Harambam, the Rambam writes, Katav, Lat Adam Yadav b'mapa, a person wraps his hands in a napkin, in a kerchief, in a towel, whatever you have. V'ochel behen pat, you can eat bread, or davar shetibulo b'mashke, or anything that would be dipped into liquids and that requires you to wash your hands. V'ayen od b'dvarav b'ilchot sha'ar avot ha'tumah, he also says it similarly regarding laws of tumah. So now the Bet Yosef, Maran wants to know, how could it be the Rambam rules against an explicit Gemara? And the opinion of many Rishonim. What is he seeing in our eating bread that makes him believe that you're allowed to use a kerchief in order to eat regular bread? The Katava Bet Yosef leva'er dato. The Bet Yosef, who's Bet Yosef? Maran. He's coming to explain the Rambam. The Svir Alei, the Rambam holds, the Kevad Tilat Yadayim Lechulin, Hi Mishum Srach Serech Tuma. Because washing our hands for bread today, remember one of the reasons we wash our hands is because the Kohanim used to do that when they ate their teruma. That's one of the reasons why we wash our hands. And the Kohanim wanted us to do like them so everyone will learn the laws of Tuma and Tara. Lo gazu bahet tfei mitruma, that our rabbis treated this washing like washing for Tuma. Even though it's not Tuma, but because the origin of washing our hands for bread is learned from Tuma, so too the using of a kerchief. The Rambam writes, and he makes a difference between the different categories of Truma, Tahara, and Chulin, what we eat. Let's skip down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines. The first word in line says Harambam. It's 5 lines up from the bottom. 5 lines up from the bottom, it says Harambam and the bracket ends. Yeah? V'katav, or the Bet Yosef, and the Bet Yosef writes further. Shedat Rashi kedat Rambam. That Rashi and the Rambam agree with each other. וכן פסקו כמה ראשונים, there are a few ראשונים who agree with them. והטור והשולחן ערוך כאן פסקו להחמיר בזה, and the Torah and the Shulchan Aruch were strict about this. והם בכסף משנה שכתב שהרמב"ם לא יקל למי שאי אפשר לו, on page 2893. Maran and the Rama agree with the ruling of the Rambam that you could use a kerchief when you need. But when you don't need, it's forbidden. But anybody who can find water is not able to just be lazy and wear gloves or a kerchief or something and not wash their hands. So basically the argument is whether or not in a time of need is when you're allowed to use a kerchief or just whenever you feel like not washing your hands. And our HaShamayim, at least Maran rules the halakha that a person who has water cannot just say, oh, I'm wearing gloves, I don't need to wash my hands. The only person who can say that is somebody who does not have water for a meal in front of them and one meal behind them. I mean, they don't have water.
I know we talked about a little bit, but if you're like on an airplane and it's very difficult to get out of your seat to get to
But difficult does not mean that you don't have water. You have water on an airplane. There's a different way to wash for the airplane. Washing on an airplane is very difficult. It's a different way to do it. We're talking about that now in halakha. It's probably going to be tomorrow that we're going to talk about it, but we're going to talk about it.
Besides that little 2-ounce thing of water they give you.
Well, the thing is, if you use the little roll they give you that says Mizono,
It really is mezzanine.
and then
Okay, we're going to do the details of this halakha next week. But look with me, so let's skip to the next chapter because I want to answer Baruch's question. On page 301. There will be differences between Sfaradim and Ashkenazim here. There will be differences between what the rabbis mean when they say what they're saying. Let's say you're getting on the plane and you won't be able to wash your hands. It'll be too hard. You're traveling to LA, you're the only one driving, you're going to need to eat while you're driving, you can't pull over, wash your hands, you don't have anybody else to wash your hands for you. 301. Notel Adam Yadav Shacharit. A person washes their hands in the morning like they always wash their hands. 301. Umatne alehem kol hayom. And he makes a condition that this washing will work for him for the whole day. Afilu shelo b'shat adchak. This is even if it's not a pressing situation. I mean, he could just do this because he feels like it. Uvilvad. The only condition is shelo yasiach da'ato mihem. You cannot stop thinking about the fact that your hands are washed. I mean, you can't be distracted about the fact your hands are washed. Hagas says the Rama, v'lo yitanifim. You can't get them dirty either. V'may mitzuim. If water is available, says Maran, lo tov she'achzor v'itod yadav. Avalo yivarech. If water is easily found, it's good for him to go back and wash his hands again and make a bracha. Not make a bracha. So let's say you know you're going to fly today. You're traveling today. Your flight's at 6 o'clock in the morning. It's 4 o'clock. You're at home washing your hands without the dime and you're going to run out the door soon. You say, hey, the washing of my hand that I'm washing now should also count for the bread that I'm going to eat later on in my flight. And that's on condition that he doesn't get distracted from the fact that his hands are washed. And Rama adds, and they shouldn't get dirty. Lo yitanafim. And Maran says, let's say now you're going to eat your sandwich and you're at the airplane. and you happen to be sitting in the lounge, you see, hey, look right there, there's a sink. You should go back and wash your hands, even though you washed in the morning. As long as you don't make a second blessing, so you don't say Hashem in vain. But what about the first washing? Is that not a blessing in vain now that you're washing a second time?
You did wash your hands.
Well, you're washing your hands anyway.
Very good, because you're washing your hands anyways.
Yeah.
You're washing your hands anyway, so it's not like you lost out on the mitzvah. Rama adds in a condition here, and his condition, I'm not going to read it now because we're going to read it next week. Rama's condition is that's only assuming that that's the hand washing for the morning. But hand washing for bread, let's say you wash your hands for bread, and then you eat bread, that doesn't count. The hand washing, we have to see it. Is he arguing with Maran? Is he adding a detail that Maran left out? But here's the real question. It sounds like a great idea. Wash your hands. And then you're going to eat your sandwich. But think about all the things you do between washing your hands in the morning and getting onto that airplane.
It could be an hour.
It's suitcases,
2 hours.
shaking people's hands.
Yeah,
If you're me, you're changing a baby's diaper. You might go to the bathroom again. All kinds of things that could happen there. There's a few ways to read this halakha. We're going to read them next week. I'm just telling you now. It's not as simple as you think. It's not as simple that your hands will get dirty. Dirty could mean the most obvious is anything. You touch it, anything. Now it's tameh. It's done. It's over. Others say no. It has to be something that's actually dirty. So if you touch mud or you touch your handle of your steering wheel, it's not dirty. It's just dirt. But it's not. It's not like when a person, forgive me, a person's changing a baby's diaper and their hand gets dirtier. They're wiping themselves. Look at that. Those things are really considered dirty. Yeah, it's not the same as you wipe back with your hair, you gel back. It's different kind of dirt, right? And in that kind of situation, that's what's a disqualifier, but not just getting your hands dirty. There's a third, and the most lenient or the most open interpretation here is no, it's tameh. Meaning tameh is you touched water that is tameh, you touched something that is tameh, but just getting your hands dirty is not enough of a reason that the washing of your hands didn't count. But we're going to have to talk about all these details when we have time to just go into them. I only bring that up now so that you don't think that this is the only option. I mean, you can plan to wash your hands earlier in the day and not have to rely on this later.
Sometimes they start serving the food, you go, oh, forgot.
So we're on page 293. Let me see. Let's look on page 295. V'yesh mekilim, and some are lenient. The some is the Rama. Af be'ocheler de kaf mazleg, even if you're eating with a fork and a knife. I mean, you're not actually covering your hand, you're simply making a separation between the bread and your hand. V'eino nogeh b'yado b'pat, he doesn't touch bread with his actual hand. Kol she'en mayim milfanav b'mechak sh'raba milin, u'melachav b'mechak sh'pachot milin. This is all assuming that there's no water in front of you or behind you. In those cases, you're allowed to eat your pizza with a fork and a knife instead of wrapping your hand.
Without
making a bracha. Yeah, it's not a washing of your hands. It's simply avoiding a situation in which you need to wash your hands. Maran's attitude was you should wear a napkin, a kerchief, a glove, something like that. Rama says no, even with a fork. And we asked, is Maran arguing with the Rama or are they agreeing with him? Here we're showing Rama is taking it a step further. So it's not that your hand cannot touch bread; it's that your hand is not touching the bread. According to Maran, it has to be your hand is not cannot touch the bread. According to Rama, your hand is just not touching the bread, and that's okay. And a person should not rely on his opinion. Unless you don't have a napkin or gloves or something to wrap your hands with. That's a very harsh wording. Don't rely on the Rama unless you need to. He doesn't write, and Sfaradim shouldn't rely on the Rama, like he did in the last chapter, that's what he said. Sfaradim shouldn't rely. He's writing, nobody should rely on the Rama unless they really have to. Why? Let's look at the footnote on 295 in the left column. Here's a fascinating case study in Ashkenazi Halacha. By Sfaradim, Maran is going to be the final word. Sometimes the Rambam. Maran. By the Ashkenazim, you would expect Rama would be the final word, but he's not. In a case where many people argue with the Rama, Ashkenazim don't follow the Rama. More often than not. And therefore the only way he could say this is if you have other Ashkenazi rabbis that come after the Rama and say, hey, Rama, with all due respect, we don't agree with you, we agree with Maran. In that case, that's where we may be able to say nobody should rely on this unless they need to. The Rama went from being just the Ashkenazi opinion to being a minority Ashkenazi opinion. And therefore, in a pressing situation, you could rely on him, but in a regular situation, you shouldn't rely on that. Let's look at the logic here on the footnote 295. Gimmel. You see where it says Gimmel on the left?
At the top.
Yeah, at the top of the page. It's in the middle column, but the top of the middle column.
The middle column meaning left or right?
The left side.
Okay.
295, the left column. You see that, bro?
Yeah.
Yeah, hold on.
Okay.
The first letter on the line is a Gimmel. It's the top of the line.
Ine.
What page are you on?
295?
295. You see the
Gimmel.
column on the left?
Yeah, I see a Gimel like about 4 lines
Yeah,
down.
Ine.
No, that's one Gimmel. Look up 4 lines.
Oh, at the very beginning. Of the
Yes,
book.
right there. That's it.
Ine. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. הנה הרמה בהגה, the Rama in his note כתב להשוות אוכל בכף לאוכל לידי מפה. The Rama tries to say that eating with a spoon and eating with a napkin is the same thing. ובשניהם יש להקל כשאין מים ד' מילים לפניו מן המחב. And they're equal in terms of using those alternatives when you don't have water in front of you or behind you. Meaning Rama says you cover your hands in a napkin or use a spoon. וכן הסכימו כמה אחרונים, and there are a number of אחרונים that agree with him. Who are they? If you look in the right column on 295, there's a Gimel there. וכן פסקו הלבוש, the לבוש rules like that. והדברי חמודות rules like that. ובשולחן ערוך הגאון רבי זלמן, who's that? The first Lubavitcher Rebbe in his Shulchan Aruch. He agrees with him. והדרך חיים agrees with him. והחסד האלפים, who's חסד האלפים? We mentioned him last week. The Pele Yoetz, that's his book of Halacha. Rabbi Eliezer Papo. והמגן גיבורים. Those rabbis agree with Rama that, and some of them are Sephardic, you see. They don't interpret Rama as arguing with Maran. They say it's an equally good option. Either you could wrap your hands or you could use a spoon or a fork. I dealt with Halacha today. I was with family today and someone brought a bagel to share and one person didn't wash their hands and they didn't have what to wrap their hands in, but they did have a fork and a knife. According to Rama, what should you do in that situation?
Well, you should wash.
If you don't have, let's say you couldn't get to water. Let's imagine we were in the middle of
Yeah.
nowhere. Yeah? And it wasn't the middle of nowhere situation. It was just that I'm too lazy to go to the sink, so they had to go wash their hands. But in a situation where there was no water, according to Maran, you'd be in trouble if there's no water and you don't have a napkin. According to the Rama, though, the napkin is good enough. The spoon, the fork, the knife, that's good enough. Ulam Hagra b'biuro, the Gaon of Vilna, in his commentary on Shulchan Aruch, He'ira Divrei Rama, he argues with the words of the Rama. Shebatur, because the Tur, who's the Tur? The predecessor of the Shulchan Aruch, is an Ashkenazi rabbi, son of the Rosh. Katav Zeli Surah, he held it's forbidden to use a spoon. So he's showing, look, the Tur, the Gaon of Vilna says, look, the Tur said that your option of using a spoon is wrong. ונראה כוונתו דאוכל במגרפה הגרה מאוכל במפה, and it seems what he's trying to say is that using a utensil is worse than using a napkin. שהרי הרמב"ם, the Rambam writes, אף על פי שכתב להקל באוכל לידי מפה, כתב להחמיר באוכל במגרפה, ואין משום דשעני ממה שידעו מכוסה, ובמגרפה חיישים לנשמה ועוד הגעת. And one of them, your hand is covered, so no matter what, you're not going to be able to touch the bread. In the other case, we're worried that you might, you might pick up the bagel with your hand and eat it. Because your hands are not covered. Only the fork and the knife are there. And because of that, they argue with the Rama.
It's a fence.
On a fence.
No, not an offense. A fence.
No, it's a fence on a fence.
A fence.
Meaning
meaning it's a protection against.
Correct. And that's why they allow a napkin but not a utensil.
I'm not making a joke.
No, for real.
Yeah.
וכן דעת כמה ראשונים, and that was the opinion of some ראשונים, וכמו שהבהרתי למעלה בסמוך, like you're gonna see soon. וסביר עלי להגרעה שהטור שהשווה בין אוכל על ידי מפה לבין אוכל בכף, כתב כן דווקא לא נחמיר ולא נעכל. Okay, let's, he quotes here the Mishnah Berurah that says that if an Ashkenazi person has a napkin or a spoon, they should use a napkin. It's preferable not to rely on the Ramah, but to use a napkin. And also Rav Chaim of Sanz wrote that, the Kaf Chaim wrote that, the Ben Etzion wrote that it's preferable when you have both to use a napkin. So basically, what he's saying is that, and the attitude of the Ramah, that it's enough just to have a degree of separation between your hands and the bread, is not according to everybody. And really, you should only rely on that in a situation where you don't have a cloth. And we're showing that not everyone reads the Ramah that way. Some read the Ramah as agreeing with Maran, meaning it's an equal, who cares, napkin or spoon, they're all the same. And we show the Gaon of Vilna tries to make a difference between the napkin and the spoon, and that is that one is there's no chance you could touch the bread, and one is there's a chance you're just avoiding to touch the bread. And that's why in this situation, even the Charonim from Ashkenaz and from Sfarad are saying only rely on the Ramah about a spoon when you don't have a napkin to cover your hands with. Now, how certain do you have to be that there is no water in front of you or behind you in order to get out your map? You have to start using binoculars. What does that have to do? You have to stop cars and ask them from the other direction. Hey, was there a gas station back there? How sure do you have to be?
If you don't know the area.
Oh, but yeah, how many times have you driven from San Diego to Madeira?
A lot of times.
5 times?
More than that.
50 times?
It's like 17 times.
17 times?
Yeah.
And how many times do you do it on a bus?
Oh, like 6 times.
And then when you used to live in San Diego and travel? You know the road to Madeira?
Yes.
Yes. He knows where the next gas station is going to be.
I
Yeah?
know exactly where it is.
Let's say I'm driving to Madeira. I have no idea. So long as I have a doubt, can I rely on the opinion that says to use a napkin and just don't... I mean, do I have to keep driving for 2.5 miles to find out? Or can I just say, I'm not sure, and then use a napkin?
No, if you're driving, you must drive 2.5 miles.
Well, I'm glad you didn't write this book. On page 295, Gimmel. You see Gimmel at the top of the page? There's so many Gimmels on this page.
Yeah.
Afilim hu mesupak bedavar. Even if he's unsure, safek, that's the root. Mesupak and safek is the root. Im yesh mayim milfanav mimechak shel 4 milin. If there's water 4 mil in front of him, or manacharav b'mechak shel pachot mil, or they're less than a mil behind him. Rashai la'akel lechol edei shikoch yadav mapa. He's allowed to be lenient until he just wrap his hand in a napkin. Or the day levishat kafot, or when he is wearing gloves. The tov lachmir b'zeh k'sheno ohev harbe. V'yichol yimanah mechad pat. And it's good to be strict about this, like over there. If you're not starving, and it's not the only thing you have to eat, like you can eat and then a little bit later eat bread. Here we're talking about a doubt. It's a doubt regarding a rabbinic law. But there's more to this doubt than you'll think. Let's look on page 295 at the bottom. We'll do maybe a few lines of that footnote. Oh, wait, before we do that, let's look on top of page 296. Nonetheless, that kama poskim, the opinion of some of the poskim is she'en hakel, you cannot be lenient, b'makom safek, in a place of doubt, ela adidei sheichoch yadav b'mapa or shilbash kufot, unless you use a napkin or gloves. But their opinion is that you can't be lenient in a place of doubt to use a spoon or a fork, like the Ramah. I mean, you could be lenient like Maran, but not like Ramah if you're in doubt. So there's an argument among the rabbis. Let's look at the footnote on 295 at the bottom. Dalit. Ayen Magen Avraham. Look at the Magen Avraham shekatav that he wrote she'af b'safek im yesh mayim l'fanav arba milin l'chamin yesh la'ken. That when you're in doubt as to the 4 meal in front of you and the 1 meal behind you, you can be lenient. Why? What's his logic? Mipnei sheyesh lismoch al harambam. You could be lenient on the Rambam. According to the Rambam, you can rely on him. Shematir b'mapa afilu ksheyesh lo mayim. The Rambam says you could use a kerchief even if you have water right in front of you. You don't have to use water. Maran rules that that's only when you don't have water. But we're saying we can rely on the Rambam in a case of doubt, not in a case of certainty. In a case of doubt, because even the Rambam would allow you to use a kerchief when you don't have water in front of you. Well, even when you do have water in front of you.
So on a plane, you could do it according
Yes,
to the Rambam.
that's right. That's right. Yeah, see what Jack said? I mean, even though there's water on the plane, it's just difficult for you to get up. Technically, according to the Rambam, you don't have to get up. It's too hard for you. Use a napkin.
So that should make your flight easier.
Yeah.
And then he says here, the Pri Megadim writes, Katav, Shlechora Ika B'Zesvek Sveka. It's actually a double doubt. Shema Rambam, the Shari b'Mapa b'Chol Yan. Maybe Halacha is like the Rambam, that you can use a napkin whenever you want, not just when you don't have. Maybe there's no water in front of you. So you have 2 doubts. Not just the doubt of there's maybe no water. It's maybe there's no water, and maybe the Halacha is like the Rambam that says that you can use a kerchief even when there is water in front of you. But look there that he himself says it's probably not a double doubt. Why? Because the majority of the Rishonim argue with the Ramban. Which, in this interesting case, sometimes you'll say, oh, that opinion creates a doubt. Not necessarily. If all the Chachamim in the world disagreed with that opinion, it's not a doubt. It's pretty clear what the halakha is like, and one person ruled differently. I'm not saying that about the Rambam, but he's saying, don't call it a double doubt, because maybe it's really not. Maybe the Rambam is actually not correct, and now the only doubt you have is whether or not there's water in front of you or behind you. And some argue, what?
Excuse me, did the Rambam ever explain why?
Why he said that? To the contrary, I think we're the ones who decided to be strict. What do we say?
Yeah.
There was a footnote that we skipped on the page 293 that talks about this. The Rambam's logic, why everyone disagrees with him. Not everyone, by the way, because he writes here, no, but maybe you could use the Rambam as a double down, because there are Rishonim who agree with him. It's just not the majority. And therefore, he wasn't a lone wolf in this regard. Some add in extra equations, like if you're very hungry, or if you're very weak from traveling, and you need to eat in order to travel more. Though I don't know how relevant some of those are. Maybe hungry, but weak could be. I'm not saying
like
that. Could be someone gets dizzy when they drive, or they stop and eat something. It could be. What?
For like a sick people?
Yeah.
They need really to eat? Okay.
Right. We're not even sick, just people who are hungry. Hungry is not sick. Actually, there is a halakha that says hungry people are sick. There's a hungry. When it talks about eating before tefillah, it's forbidden to eat before tefillah. Only a sick person can eat before tefillah, in case they need to eat in order to pray. Some want to read that Shulchan Aruch by saying that nowadays everybody is sick, meaning everybody has a hard time praying without eating beforehand. Because of that, you can eat before you pray. I'll tell you, I don't know that that's true. I never eat before tefillah. I used to when I was younger. I grew up in a community where everybody ate before tefillah. But once I went to yeshiva, I learned halakha. We didn't eat anything before tefillah. Listen, there are times where I am not feeling well. I am actually sick. And in those situations, I'll allow myself to eat something before tefillah. But for the most part, a healthy person who prays, now that's the problem though. Is sometimes in the communities, and sometimes the community leaders, not necessarily rabbis, don't take it into account that there are people here who are still Shabbat morning is a big deal. Weekdays not such a big deal. Weekdays you pray early, you end early. Shabbat you start late and you end very late. Some communities 3.5 hours until they finish. That means that they're fast. Let's say they start at 8 or 9, or they can be fasting until 12:30, 1 o'clock, till they set up kiddush and they do kiddush and all that. It could be a very long time, and it could be that a person has to be a little bit, make a calculation. Like, who are we catering to? All the people who drove here and ate before tefillah, or are we catering to those people who walked here and didn't eat before tefillah? That has to be a conversation that exists in the community. I don't know what the solution always is. I know in Baltimore, on Rosh Hashanah, they used to pray. By the Ashkenazim, Rosh Hashanah services are very long. Not like ours are short, but not as long as the Ashkenazim. By the Ashkenazim, the repetition of the Amidah takes a long time. It's like and for both, there's a separate repetition. It's not really repetition. It's a new service that's called the repetition. What they would do is, by the time like shofar, I wouldn't exaggerate if I would tell you that in Baltimore we started shacharit at 7 or 7:30 in the morning on Rosh Hashanah, and we went to eat lunch at 3:30 or 4 o'clock. Right. I would not exaggerate if I'm telling you like that.
P.U.T.
Yeah, forever they pray and they pray and they pray and they pray. I remember because when I was younger, I wasn't allowed to go to the Sephardic minyan. In the early years, you had to be a certain age to go to the Sephardic minyan. They worried. The Sephardim, I'm not justifying it. The Sephardim, we finished at like 12. So now there's like 4 hours where you can do whatever you want. They had all problems with that. I don't know. Whatever it was. I spent many years with Ashkenazim and the Tefillah. And what they would do is they would take a break before, I don't know if it was before Torah reading or after Torah reading before the shofar. They would make a little kiddush and some drinks and some cakes and those things so people could continue to the next part of Tefillah. It could be in a community where they know they have to pray late. I'll give you an example. Let's say a Chabad rabbi. A Chabad rabbi prays at 10 o'clock in the morning. I'm not saying right or wrong, just this is the reality of the way it works. He prays at 10, and he knows that really nobody shows up till 11. So he knows that really his tefillah starts at 11. It's a beginning. It's not a big Chabad. It's somewhere in the middle of nowhere. And he knows that really he wants a minyan for Torah reading that's going to happen closer to 12. And really it's 1:30 till he eats. It could be that before they do the Torah reading or whatever, he could step out of the kitchen, make for himself a kiddush, eat a little bit of something, and come back and say. It could be. It could be that would be a solution. The Kiddush Club may actually have a holier purpose than you think. The Kiddush Club normally is made so that people skip the rabbi's drasha and they get drunk. But really it could be a Kiddush Club, and that's a negative thing. Could be a Kiddush Club, could exist for a positive. Could be the rabbi will join the Kiddush Club for 5 minutes to eat or drink something and then go back into services and allow that to continue. Would be ideal that everyone prayed early. Yeah, you don't always live in ideal situations. Sometimes there's a community and it's a lot of people and you have to take a lot of people into consideration and how they work and how do we get to this from there? I told you that sometimes a sick person could be in the category in halakha. A hungry person could be considered a sick person in halakha in terms of being allowed to eat before tefillah. I'm not sure they would be. If that would be true, then a hungry person could also eat on Yom Kippur because they're sick, sick people. Yeah. But we don't go that far. So I'm not carrying it everywhere that a hungry person is a sick person. Only that there are places in halakha where perhaps the prohibition is light, and therefore even a little bit of a problem can push off that prohibition. Why are you not allowed to eat before tefillah? What's the logic behind that?
Because you may forget to daven.
Okay, that's in the evening. You're right. Baruch is right. In the evening, you're not allowed to eat before Arvit. Why? Because maybe you'll forget. You get hungry. You eat. You get excited. You sit on the couch. You fall asleep, and then by the time you know it, it's already too late to pray. By the morning, that's not the question. Because if you're up anyways, so it's not like a person who's sleeping yet. It's a person who's up. The idea is the Gemara Masechet Berachot says, Hashem says, you're ochlim al adam. They eat before. They eat on the blood. Meaning, before you come to ask me for life, you're already making yourself breakfast, a latte, a panini, and your panini. What is this? Where's the humility? Are you sure you're going to live today? You didn't pray yet. Because of that, HaKadosh Baruch Hu requires from us, pray first. But what about a chazanah person who, they're still not sure they're going to live today, but they want to make sure they live till shacharit. So in that kind of situation, they're allowed to do what it takes to live until the time where they can pray to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. In that logic, and I'm not telling you now psak halakha, it did occur to me once that a person lives in a community where they pray late and they pray long, and they don't eat, and they're operating from 7 o'clock, and minyan only starts at 9:30, and they know it only going to end at 12:30. It could be that kind of person is a little bit in the situation of they're up, they're ready, they would pray if they could. It could be that there's room to be lenient over there. I'm not saying yes or no. You have to look in the books of the poskim from our generations, but it could be that kind of person is considered, they're awake, they're not being audacious in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. They're just trying to survive until minyan starts. It could be. I didn't say, but it could be.
Hashem.
So the people who don't eat, they're given the condition that they can drink coffee and tea and stuff.
Oh, very good. So drinking is a whole different category. Drinking, for sure, water is fine. Coffee and tea, you see a development throughout the ages of what is considered problematic. There were generations that said coffee and tea, but no sugar. Why? Because sugar was considered like, only rich people in their special tea times had sugar. Today, where most people, not most, many people won't drink without sugar or without milk, without those kind of things. When I asked Al Peretz, I believe the answer he told me was just don't drink anything that looks like it's an arrogant drink to drink before that. Don't go to Starbucks on your way into Shacharit and order a triple fudge frappuccino with marshmallows inside, drizzled with your favorite caramel syrup.
Right.
That's not like I need to drink a little bit.
Make it
Make yourself a coffee, make yourself a tea, and you see that in many Bate Knesset, that's the custom. My grandfather was careful not to drink tea with sugar before tefillah, but again, I think he was coming from a world where the tea with sugar was the equivalent of your frappuccino that you're ordering. And so everybody has a different standard to that, and that's a very good point you brought up. Have a beautiful day.